So while you apply the paint on a physical canvas, it is immediately projected on the surface of a 3D model. So it's a way to give you an instant look into what your product or any product will look like with your physical design applied to it.
That's Roy Rodenaheuser, a London-based creative technologist with over 12 years of experience driving innovation at Yahoo, Unity, and now Capgemini. In 2024, he founded Canvastic 3D, a proof of concept that completely broke the internet and went viral on Instagram, LinkedIn, and X, and showed people how to add a tactile dimension to digital design. In this conversation, Roy shares bold prediction and hard-earned lesson on what creatives need to bridge the gap between hands-on craft and 3D visualization.
The crave for realism almost, it's not something that I think, it's something that is almost immediately collapses when they see how immediate it is. And they completely understand the purpose of the tool is about this sort of hyper-casual prototyping or pre-visualization. It's not about the end result.
We dig into why simplicity can be more powerful than photorealism and why over-engineering can kill adoption before it starts.
And when I propose, let's improve it by somehow complicating the product, they just tell me no. The value is how casual the product is. You can place it there on a table, have the setup ready, and people will just place, fabrics or designs. That's it. That's what they want.
Of course, we look at the role of XR in the design process.
Yes, mixed reality support is coming very soon, and it currently works with a MetaQuest device. I personally think it brings a lot of value to the process.
And you'll hear how Canvastic 3D is used by designer textile companies and even some pretty unexpected use cases.
If you want to be surprised, there was also a tequila maker who reached out because they just want to personalize the label. There are companies that produce very intricate bottles, not just tequila, any type of drink, but they want to target specific audience or give a certain value to their product, and they do so by customizing the outdoor look, the bottle. So we receive requests even from tequila makers.
But before we get into it, I wanted to thank our sponsor Meshi, who made this episode possible. Meshi is a real powerhouse for generating 3D assets with AI. You can start with a simple text or image prompt and get high-quality stylized 3D models in just a minute. One feature I personally love is the ability to create stylized texture for any mesh, with or without UV. And since the release, Meshi's teams keep pushing amazing updates like texture inpainting, ultra-realistic sculpture, and the ability to rig and animate your character. To try it out, go to meshi.ai and start the 7 days trial to access all these incredible features. And now it's time to roll the title and welcome Roy under the spotlight. Roy, it is a real pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Gabriele, and thanks so much for having me here. It's an honor, and congratulations for keeping this amazing podcast going.
No, I mean, thank you very much for being here. As I've said, everybody that listen to this usually say, look, the guests that you bring in, I think whatever the topic, I always learn something from them. So I'm pretty sure that today is going to be really an interesting conversation, intersection between creativity, physical, and digital. So really the sweet spot for me. But I would like to start asking, what is Canvastic? Can you explain to us how it works?
Yes, so Canvastic 3D is a product and that aims at bridging the gap between physical tools and digital visualization. So in essence, how it works, it's basically it projects any physical materials that you place in front of a webcam on a 3D model that might represent one of your products instantly. So it's real time. So this could either be fabric samples. So if you are, for example, a textile company, you can go through a collection of fabric samples and see them immediately projected on, let's say, a dress, a shirt, or another product. And similarly, if you are, let's say, an artist that wants to monetize their artwork. For example, if you're into, let's say, watercolors or acrylic paint, you can do the same. So while you apply the paint on a physical canvas, this immediately projected on the surface of a 3D model. So it's a way to give you an instant look into what your product or any product will look like with your physical design applied to it.
So, and how does what kind of visualization can you have? I mean, how does the setup look like? And once you make a change or add these type of textures of fabric or paint on a surface that is captured by this camera, what happens afterward? How does that get visualized?
Yes, so the your setup really depends how you want to approach your work. So Canvas 6 3D is very casual and flexible. So you can use it across multiple type of devices. So that could be a mobile phone, a tablet, or a desktop machine. If we're going for a more, let's say, serious work, maybe you can utilize your desktop machine. You can have a high resolution camera fixed, mounted on a stand, and maybe pointing downward on a physical canvas, framing that physical canvas. So anything that is applied on that physical canvas is then projected on a 3D model. The product comes with right now with a small library of uh, pre pre available 3D models, but it's going to grow. But you can also upload your own 3D models. So we want to make the process very easy. But going back to the setup, that's, let's say, that would be the more serious approach or the less casual. That's the right term, I think. But for something more casual, you can also just use your mobile phone. So you can also be on the street and you see something interesting and you think, oh, how would that design look like? Would look like on these pair of sneakers that I recently designed. So you can take a snap and get inspiration, and when you go back on your desktop machine, you can find the same snapshot and continue work from there. So I'm not sure if I mentioned this is a web-based application. That's what makes it available cross-device, but also all the designs that you save are saved on the cloud. Meaning, if you are on the street, take a picture. When you go back home, you will find it also on your desktop machine or tablet.
And I think though you maybe because the way many people have learned about Canvas Stick is seeing one of your video of that in action. And I believe that at some point you were also showing how that would look like in mixed reality. So having that specific model being a dress or being a piece of furniture and have then that visualized in mixed reality. So I believe that's on a Quest. So how does that work in a sense? So being a web app, that means that the 3D model can be viewed easily, even in VR or in MR, or there are limitations there.
Yes, mixed reality support is coming very soon. So the feature I've already been testing the feature and been sharing video previews of that feature, and it currently works with a MetaQuest device, so either a MetaQuest 2 or 3. And I personally think it brings a lot of value to the process. I'm personally enthusiastic about virtual reality, mixed reality, and XR in general, but I never want to force it into a solution. But in this case, I really felt it was adding something to it. So if you see the current workflow that we're proposing with Canvas Stick 3D, you have the analog, the more physical side of it, and the digital one. The analog one is physical and tangible by nature, but the digital is not. But suddenly, by using a device like a Quest 3 and its hand tracking capabilities, Well, now you can grab those virtual objects using your hands. So both sides, they become a very manual process. So perhaps you're painting something using a set of brushes, and of course you're doing that manually. And then at the same time, you can grab something through mixed reality using your own hands, which is incredible. You're not touching it, but I think it's getting there to almost have that feel that you're actually handling the digital product.
So I'm just curious a little bit because I always like to dig a little bit into the technical side, despite my technical knowledge limitations. But I would be curious, like, what are the hurdles of bringing something that is like now like Canvastic on the web based on its current architecture on a website on a headset like the Quest or maybe the Vision Pro or maybe the spectacles? Like, what does need to happen in order to be able to port such an experience that seems like a in a way a no-brainer for a easy to use bloop bloop and I see or something that is maybe very polished like the Vision Pro on a device like that?
Well, the approach we're using is thinking about the mixed reality or virtual reality application as a companion app. So it's not the main application or the focus of it. It's something that you might want to use casually. So right now, what we're doing, we're streaming what you're capturing. We're streaming it from the web application to the Meta Quest 3, and that happens currently. That happens in your local network. So you have to have the Quest 3 and your device running Canvas Stick connected to the same local network, and that's how it happens. So it's I would say creating this companion application is relatively easy. Is an application almost on its own with its own uniqueness, and that's how we are treating it. So I'm not thinking too much about in terms of porting. It's more about creating this other companion app that can receive a stream, a visual stream from the main web-based application. So yeah, that's our approach. And now I wouldn't say it's hard at all. There are many resources, fortunately, out there, and the community is, I would say, is relatively large. And thanks to that, also AI assistants can prove relatively effective, thanks to the fact that there's a lot of documentation and a large community out there.
So there are all these elements, right? In a sense, there is this physical part with this webcam where you can kind of like play around and put some texture on it. You can get creative physically with whatever you can put under a webcam, technically, right? It could be literally flowing water. It could be anything, right? Um, and then there is, of course, this interface, this 2D interface that is a monitor. That is the primary way in which those models can be viewed. And then there is the companion app that could go on, as of now, Quest, or as of very soon on a Quest, to be precise. Now, for who is this? Like, who are the people that showed interest that are spending time with it? Because the most obvious feels like it's the designer, the creative, but is it?
Yes, yes, yeah, this is very, very interesting. So, of course, designers, creative people who are very physical in their approach, in their workflow, they're very interested because they can now make use of digital technologies like real-time 3D rendering without any efforts. So if you see from the videos, it's you immediately understand. I think the first 2-3 seconds, you already know how to use it. That's it. You just place things under the webcam, and that's the beauty of it. You don't have to learn any new tools, any new processes. The learning curve is almost zero. So yes, designers, artists. Then we received a lot of attention from textile companies So companies that have large collection of textiles, and perhaps every season they have a new collection of textiles and they want to showcase that to clients, perhaps one to one or during some trade show. So this, I would say, is the second category. Plus, there's interior designers who show interest, toy makers. So I would say any discipline, any professional that can benefit from getting a quick look at how a a design could look like on a physical product can benefit from it. Then we had other very interesting use cases. So material departments working at large companies that produce different type of products, even set designers, and that was which I found particularly fascinating and surprising. So yes, I would say those are the main categories. Plus educators that might be teaching uh, things like product design, or perhaps they just want to have their students acquainted with digital technologies.
So I would have guessed the fashion designer. I would have also guessed, let's
Yep.
say, the furniture that I would have, and also the sales use case, because that is not designing anymore, but it's just showcasing a product. Could be like a couch with this type of fabric, right? I think that comes intuitive. Now, you caught me a little bit off guard on the toy and on the set designer. So maybe to clarify to maybe to me, to people, on what kind of objects, what kind of thing are they putting on? Like how does this work for in the case of toys, or how does this work maybe in the case of a set?
Well, in terms of toys, you might have a very specific doll, or and you want to see different types of garments,
All
how
right.
different types of garments are fashioned. So yeah, it's akin to fashion design. Uh, but also some toy makers, they have this basic, let's say, shape of a toy, and they just want to customize the outer look, which is not necessarily just the garments, but the entirety of the surface. So perhaps they have one or a very specific set of variations in terms of shape, but they want to provide the consumer with unlimited options in terms of the final look of the product. And set designers, yes, probably is about testing how, let's say, a particular sofa will look like with certain type of fabric, or even the walls of the set might look like with different type of materials, and perhaps they want to do it very quickly. I imagine there is a decision maker that would benefit from being able to just go through instantly a collection of materials to save time. And I think that's one of the main, well, I believe it is possibly the main value of Canvas Stick 3D, the time saving in pre-visualization.
So there is another point that you said, that you just see it and you know how to use
Sorry,
it,
Joe,
right?
before you continue, if you want to be surprised, there was also a tequila maker uh, who reached out because they just
Tequila?
want to personalize, the label. There are there are companies that produce very intricate bottles, not just tequila. It could be any type of drink, but they want to target a specific audience, or give a certain value to their product. And they do so by customizing the outer look of the bottle in this case. So we receive requests even from tequila makers.
Okay, that's certainly I couldn't have guessed. Now, if you you were saying, of course, you look at it and then you know how to use it. Now, there is another layer to this, right? I mean, especially for companies that want to use it for their specific visualization, you would need to have a 3D model that is somehow set up with UV. You need to have those 3D assets. I mean, at the end, yes, to use it is easy, but then to have the right asset prepared in the right format, have you seen companies having those ready already? Like, do they have a 3D catalog of their assets? Is that true for all of this industry that you have mentioned?
Yeah, it depends. When it comes to toys, yes. So many products start from being designed using CAD tools, and even fashion, interesting enough. And I think the challenge comes to have a 3D model that works well on Canvas 3D. So you have to, right now we only support GLB. We're going to support more file formats, but as you said, and sometimes you might need it to be UV unwrapped, and that's not always the case. So those are areas that where we want to find solutions to somehow try to and automate the process to get a 3D model or an existing 3D model in the right formats. But many companies they already have those, and others like textile companies, they're not interested in a very specific product. They're interested in showing their collection on various type of standard products. So it doesn't have to be specifically that particular brand of trousers or
Of course.
shirt, just a generic one. So even without having yet um, completely solved that aspect, there's already a good base of companies and individuals that are ready to use the solution.
So the other point is this: the need for photorealism, in a
Yeah.
sense, the need for because when you're talking about designers, there are people that are extremely precious about what they have created, right? Fabric, again, I cannot imagine even how many hundreds of thousands, if not millions, goes into designing those, right? And so the way it looks, the way it feels, the way the light bounce and reflects, and the coarseness, there is a lot going on in there. So what is your take? Are people really picky with that? To what extent their pickiness kind of like collapse because I can be so fast? Because that's the whole premise. I mean, one of the biggest premise of VR, I think, or in general 3D, but I believe even more of VR, is that it's amazing for pre-visualization. It's amazing for quick iterations. But every time we hit a wall and we say, oh yeah, but it's not exactly how I want, because people want this photorealism, they want reality. When is that a user starts making compromises on the way it looks for the sake of the speed at which it can go?
I think the so this crave for realism almost well, it's not something that I think, it's something that is almost immediately collapses when they see how immediate it is, and they completely understand. I think even from the video, you completely understand the purpose of the tool is about this sort of hyper casual prototyping or pre-visualization. It's not about the end result. It's not about generating a 3D asset that you can then use in marketing material or in a high-res video. It's not about that. They completely understand Canvas 3D. It bridges that gap at a very early stage during the design process, and they do understand the value. And interesting enough, when I spoke with some leading fashion companies, when I would tell them Well, eventually we can also support things like PBR materials and other. Someone told me, please don't, just leave it as it is, because otherwise, if we will require some level of understanding of 3D graphics, people won't use it. I'm not talking people in general. I'm talking people who perhaps have very manual workflows, and uh, they don't have a 3D graphics background, right? So those people are the ones who would extremely benefit from Canvas Stick 3D. And when I propose, let's improve it by somehow complicating the product, they just tell me no. The value is how casual the product is. You can place it there on a table, have the setup ready, and people will just place, fabrics or designs. That's it. That's instant. That's what they want. When they want something high quality, they understand there is a different set of tools for that.
So, with this idea of something super casual, right? I just want to go back to a thought. What is your take on the value of seeing this, for example, in mixed reality or in virtual reality? Do you think there is enough value? Because that adds friction, considerable,
Yep.
considerable friction, given also the how simple you want this to look. So then at that point, the question is a bit like before, how much you would justify putting on the headset for this extra depth, for this extra dimension that you can experience your design with?
I think it does, but the way we're approaching this is some sort of perhaps layered reality or layered user experience. Not sure how to call it, but essentially, yes, you can use the Quest 3 device. You can visualize it, and the amazing thing is that you're handling the product with your own hands, and it gives you this illusion that you're almost handling the real product. Almost, I say almost because you don't have still the tactile feedback. I know there are products out there that do that, but they're still very bulky and everything. But a great thing I think of our approach is that yes, maybe you don't want to spend hours wearing a headset. Perhaps you just want to have a quick peek at your product in mixed reality, maybe just a few minutes or even just a few seconds. And when you take off the headset, you just continue work on your laptop or your PC. So your work is still there, and that's why we decided to stream to the headset instead of finding another approach. And and on the same line, when you stop working on your computer, mobile, or tablet, you're still left with your physical elements, your physical materials, or that could be a painting, that could be fabric samples. And I think that's the beauty of it, how we're trying to layer the physical tools and physical materials with different levels of digital interfaces. There could be, as I said, something as simple as a desktop, mobile tablet, or something a bit more with a bit more friction, like a headset. But there is value. I think is very occasional. So the way we use it, just go through materials, you see it on a screen. When you're very interested about one, that's when you pick up the headset and you get a better look at it, like a more tangible look at the product.
Yeah, yeah. So I want to kind of like shift a little bit gear here, because one thing that I think many people have enjoyed and appreciate is also not just Canvas Stick as a whole, but also the way you tell a story about Canvas Stick, the way you kind of like make videos that showcase how how the product works, how you mix that physical element and playfulness with that digital layer. Maybe and that's also an art, to be honest. Like making video about XR product, I'm very passionate about it because that's one thing that I do very often, and always trying my best and different and creative ways to tell a story regarding a product. But is there any advice or something that you could share with people that you think why maybe is that canvas stick that makes it for a good showcase? Is that you have created, let's say, some shots or framing or built a story around the product that works particularly well?
Well, probably the first advice is about cultivating the attention during probably I would say almost the first second, 1, 2 seconds. You have to get people's attention and try to have them understand uh, instantly what's happening, or at least question what's happening, understand or question it. But anyways, try to drive their interest. And I see that in your videos. I see one about the Apple Vision Pro feature. You scroll, you scroll on LinkedIn. Of course, I follow you since many years now, and I see that video, and immediately gets my attention because I know, I think you were featuring this digital version of yourself, because I instantly knew, okay, it's virtual, but it looks really good. It's Apple Vision Pro, and I was like, wow, it immediately reacts to your face expression. So in a few seconds, I already understood what's happening. And I also knew that I haven't seen something that before, or is very rare to see that. And that's what I try to achieve with my videos as well. Instantly grab their attention, but a common thing in my demos, or what I'm trying to express, is the importance of physicality, physical tools, and tangibility, the use of hands. So you see a lot of hands in my demos, whether it's the MetaQuest, whether it's just a 3D display. There's always something to touch with your bare hands, and that's what I'm trying to communicate. How digital can enhance physical in a sort of invisible way. So it becomes technology, to me, has to become invisible and a bit magical as well. And that's what I want to communicate in the videos. A little bit of magic, enough to try to bring their enthusiasm at a very high levels. And yeah, and I must say, I was really surprised to see the reaction to some of the videos. One of them, I think for one of them, utilize a 3D display from a company called Illumetry, with whom we did a partnership between Canvas 3D and them. And then video went went viral. It really went viral. I accumulated a few million views, which was the first time. So one of my videos reached those levels. Then I saw other accounts sharing it, and they also made a few million views. And that's the validation you're looking for. I think that's the reason why you want to share a video of one of your demos or prototypes, to look for validation and an opinion, and that can come from people of any background and discipline. Maybe a prototype that you created thinking about one particular use case. Suddenly you look at the comments and you find someone from a completely different discipline telling you that this would be amazing also in this
Yeah,
space.
I think also like virality and validation, they both start with a V, but I'm not very sure that one equal the others because that's a very slippery slope sometimes. I mean, for example, you can make a very good video and that gets viral, gets the attention, but then it doesn't. It gives you the impression that there is interest. It gives you that feeling, gives you that kind of like level of reward. What have you seen after that video went viral? Were you able to kind of like measure some sort of interest? How did, beside the likes, beside the number of
Yeah.
views, did anything happen to you, to Canvas Stick, to say yes, now it's worth maybe investing more, or yes, I'm sure that this concept has been validated, I act on it? What happened?
Yes. Yeah, I think as you said, the virality, I agree, is not directly proportional to how valid your idea is. And that I agree 100%. It's like an indication of it. The most valuable thing is uh, when uh, when leading companies reach out to you and you speak with them and you have very interesting conversation. Some of that they just want to know who you are, but others are really interested in discussing, and they have use cases to share. And as I mentioned before, like in that case where someone told me, "No, don't make it more complicated than this. This is what we need." That's more valuable than the virality you get. I I agree on that, but it's a good indication. And if your other videos of the same concept get a good reaction, I think it's still a good indication. But yes, the best validation are, I think, the individuals are either working individually or for big companies that tell you what use case or what problem you are solving.
And maybe also for people, I mean, there is no silver bullet. I mean, sometimes you make videos that you think are going to be amazing and they completely flop. Sometimes you make a video that takes 10 minutes and it's going to just explode, because that's also the nature of social media, the nature of humans. There is always a level of unpredictability. But I think one thing that is somehow, let's say, important, people when sometimes build a video, they think that there is that level of, let's say, build up where the best comes afterward. No, as you said, the important thing is not only to front load the interest of the video, so put the best part at the beginning, because that's going to catch the attention. And also, referring to what you mentioned in that video of the persona, the other point is that you need to bring new element of surprises throughout the video. What that means is that what I was doing in the video is you show me, oh yeah, that's pretty cool, 2-3 seconds. After that, I kind of like shout. I pretend like I'm shouting at the camera. And then it's like, what is happening? That is a bit of a moment of like, what? Why this is happening? Like, what is doing? And then right after, I take out my tongue, and then I show that my tongue is actually tracked as well. So you stick with the video, you keep moving forward and add element of surprises. That is not always possible, right? Depends the tool you have, depends the what you're making the video of. But even though like small videos can also be, let's say, engineered to keep the retention and to keep adding surprises and moments where you always need to try to add those at the beginning, because that's where people are going to stay longer and stay longer and stay longer, and consequently amplify the reach of your video. Just high level thoughts about making pretty several hundreds, I think, of video by now on LinkedIn at least.
Yeah, but I think that having a surprise is great, and perhaps it becomes a bit more personal. People will start understanding. Okay, he's very playful. I really like how he creates his videos. Not just those 3 seconds. There's more to it. I want maybe that's what makes the difference between not following and or following, if that's what you're looking for. If you're looking to grow your number of followers, which is not necessarily beneficial to
Exactly, that's what
validation
we
of
said, right?
your.
So at the end, if you see a response, then it's of course what you want, right? If the biggest validation you could get is people giving you money, right, with any product, that's always the final goal. Like if you manage to capture that attention and turn it into somehow revenue or an action or something that these people are going to give you, even that being a subscription to your newsletter or a wish list or whatever that might be, I think those are very good metrics, much more valuable than per se the like or the view on the video. But I wanted to, we had discussed about Canvasstick, we went discussing about social media now, but besides Canvasstick, are you working on other projects?
Yes, so currently there are, I would say, other two proof of concepts or projects. One of them is called Slicer, which is a play of words between Slicer and AR, so augmented reality. And the purpose of that tool is about making the visualization of volumetric data very intuitive. And when I talk about volumetric data, that could be, I'm thinking about things like computed tomography, so CT scans and MRI scans. So mainly medical data, but not exclusively. Now, the intuitiveness comes from the fact that you can rely on your augmented reality, on your device augmented reality capabilities, and in particular the tracking, position tracking of the device. So at that moment, the surface of the device becomes the cross-section plane of that volume. So then you can slice through, and that's why the name Slicer. You can slice through a volume of a brain scan. You can do that in from any angle, from any position, and that's the beauty of it. And again, there's another prototype that I consider very very manual. So hands first. It's about using your hands to get an immediate virtual feedback. And while the other one again employs 3D displays, and it was like an evolution of my interest for virtual production techniques. So since a few years, I developed like an enthusiasm about virtual production. And if you don't know what that is essentially is the employment of real-time 3D technology in things like video production. So it's employed in the creation of series and movies, and it's some sort of evolution of the green screen, or I would say probably should better say an alternative to the classic green screen, and it requires some level of understanding of how to project a background, a virtual background on a flat surface so that it looks volumetric from any angle of the camera. So I've been investigating that for a few years. I created my own tool for Unity. I shared a few demos using it. And that's when this company that makes 3D displays, they reached out to me called Illumetry. And they asked me to try their own solution. And I tried it. I loved it. It's a 3D display. It uses glasses, very lightweight glasses. It comes with styluses as well. They are tracked, which their position is tracked. And the most recent demo that I created for thinking about that display is what I refer to as a virtual museum display. So think about the movie Night at the Museum, where there is a scene where the villagers of a scale model come to life. So think about that. And it's essentially that brought to life thanks to this 3D display. So when you wear the glasses, suddenly there's this illusion of volume, and the screen turns into, well, it gives you the illusion that the screen is like a glass, and behind the glass there is a scale model of Mayan structure, and I have a physical replica here because I made myself by hand. So I'm very physical, as you can see. Even if I do things digitally and then I move into Blender, I like to start from something physical. And this is not painted, but the virtual one is. And there is a tiny villager, and I think that that's the element of magic. Just like Night of Museum, the element of magic is these tiny miniatures coming to life. And he walks around, is a Maya villager, walks around, and so on. And something that I also discovered is that by using the styluses with this 3D display, well, you can touch anything virtual to it. So like even a virtual light. But when you shine the virtual light on the virtual scale model, suddenly it brings the level of realism to a higher level. So it's like your brain accepts it. This is physical. This is not virtual. This is really
Yeah,
physical.
because that's the moment that you kind of like influence that reality with your own action, right? That's the moment that you
Yes.
point a light, and that's just like, whoa, right? The next thing happening is that those villagers turns toward you and tells you, "Hey, switch off the light," because then it's like, okay, wait, let me. Now, what is happening?
Well, that's the next step to make them alive, and perhaps give you a tour of what you're looking at and react to your actions. But again, there's a level of hands involved, right? Again, you're using your hands again, and that's what I love from that proof of concept as well.
So, I mean, besides Canvas Stick, it sounds like you're busy with other things, right? Other project, a different level of polish and exploration. Now, how do you balance that with your current job, right? I mean, what was the driver to to spend so many hours on top of what you are already doing? Because I imagine that might be many other developers or other creatives that might have a itch. They have this idea, but of course from there to maybe quitting a job and let's say people have responsibility in life, that happens. So how do you balance these two things?
Yeah, it's a balancing act, and I think that's one of my main challenges right now, or well, since ever, I guess, since ever I started
Yeah,
being
but
really
the point
passionate
i
about
think i
it.
think maybe is, yeah, it's challenging, and I believe it, though you
Mhm.
need to have a strong driver, right? There must be a
Oh
strong
yes,
reason in order to do it. So because everybody, if with good enough motivation, can do it. Everybody can. What was yours? What was your for starting and for keeping up with it?
I think it's that yeah, the drive for creativity, for discovery, exploration. I love using digital tools, computers, but I also love using my hands to create things. And probably the main drive that I do not want to decide between the two, and I don't want to wait between something physical turning digital, and either way. And that's what I think most of tools do right now. You either stuck in digital or physical, or it takes some time to bridge the gap. And that's probably the main motivation. I do not want to decide between the two. And I think it comes out from maybe from frustration as well, where you're being told, well, actually, even from when you are at a young age at school, well, either you do computer science or you go to art school, right? and they're very different. At least when I was, a teenager, or it was very different. Nowadays, probably, I don't know. Maybe you use a tablet. I don't know. But at that age, you had to decide. And right now, I realize, well, I do not have to. I don't want to, and I want a future where things are the true realities are completely blurred. And that's the beauty of technologies like mixed reality, and all the technologies involved in the understanding of your space, and what's it's in front of you. So I would say that's the main driver. I want to express myself. I think, like everyone, like many people, many creative people, but I don't want to decide between either physical or traditional and digital.
So if we now move a step away, right, and we put Roy on a side and your motivation that I completely share and I admire at the same time, what would advice would you give maybe to other developers that they have a cool prototype and they say it's like, that's really scratched my itch, but what do I do with it?
Yeah, well, try to do, probably the best advice, try to do something every week, or at least if you're so busy, even every month. It's going to add up eventually. And is patience and discipline. For how much boring that might sound, those those will become your best allies. The drive, the creative drive, if you have it, it will always be there, and it will either turn into frustration or inspiration, and that's up to you. And to turn it into inspiration, you have to have that certain level of discipline and patience for growing things, even slowly, if you have to, and adapt the pace depending on your other obligations. So that's one advice, and the other one is sharing. I mean, we just discussed that, but sharing, you can validate your idea, you can get different opinions, see your work from different angles, some that you would have never imagined. So yeah, those are also the two advices that I can give.
Thank you very much for listening in. If you like the show, remember to leave a rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or a thumbs up on YouTube. It really helps me keep doing this and shine the spotlights on the greatest founders and makers, pushing the boundaries of XR and AI. Also, make sure to check out the show page xraispotlight.com, where you can find more conversation like this one. Till next time.